Hey, all you happy people, how you doing? Welcome to, I guess we're still calling it the Dan Wickline Show, or Raconteur Ramblings, or uh, someplace to hang out Sunday nights for an hour. That's kind of a bad one. I like that. That's not bad at all. Someplace to hang out Sunday nights for an hour. So, interesting week for me. Ed, how you doing? Yeah, I had a good weekend. But like I said, it's been an interesting week for me. Um, I don't get much. Well, I occasionally give you guys a glimpse into my personal life. Um, I've had kind of a weird romantic history in that there were two different girls I knew in high school that I was interested in and proceeded to kind of date one, then the other, and then the back and forth. And that's gone on for about 40 years. Well, my ex-wife, Debbie, who I've known since my first day of freshman high school, is moving out of the state, has moved. I guess technically has moved. She sold her condo that she had bought after we had gotten divorced and is now up in the great Pacific Northwest. But needed a place to stay for a couple days between selling the condo and getting out of it and taking the train up north. And I said, of course, because her and I didn't have a bad breakup. We just got to the point where we were like, we're better friends than relationship. And that's pretty much what we did was we parted amicably. Actually, we separated and it took us another 4 years to get divorced because neither one of us really wanted to spend the time to do the paperwork. We've been friends ever since. She has come to Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners every year since. We usually get together every couple of months for dinner. Her and Deb get along great. I taught her crocheting a couple of years ago, so she would come over and crochet with me. So it's a interesting relationship, but she's moving and stayed here for a couple days. And in the afternoons when I was done working, we would sit down and watch a movie and crochet until Lisa got home. And the two movies she picked shouldn't really surprise me because she's the one I used to go to all the Marvel movies with, the Iron Mans and stuff like that, but also like Terminator 2, I went with her. And the first movie we ever went to, first date we ever were on was Halloween 4. So, but she picked the movies and she picked the 2025 Superman because she'd been hearing great about it. And she picked the second day she was here, she picked the Batman from 2022. Neither of which upset me because they were both movies that I kind of wanted to rewatch with everything going on, with the fact that their sequels are in production. I thought it would be neat to rewatch them, and I was just trying to figure out when would be a good time, and she kind of made that happen without me necessarily, suggesting it or anything. And it was fascinating for me to watch her watch the movie because she didn't grow up a comic reader. She, her experience with them is through me. I would give her what she needed to know going into a movie. At some point, if she needed it, I would explain what happens or whatever. And there was none of that. I didn't need to explain anything. either from just years of these characters being in the limelight or in the pop culture zeitgeist, or just how well the writers directors did. She got it. She understood all of it. No, I mean, she got excited at all the right part. I mean, it was enjoyable to watch her watch these movies, because I kind of get an interesting kick out of that from a writer point of view, because you can learn how to become a better writer by watching people and how they digest entertainment. So, like, there's a lot of people online who do these reaction videos. Oh, we watched Superman for the first time, and here it is. Here we are, and you see what they caught, what they understood, what was important to them, what wasn't. But you watch enough of them, you start figuring it out. Oh, okay, you don't necessarily have to be pedantic in your explanations. Oh, you can leave a clue out, like, well, how did they get into the Fortress of Solitude? And then pay it off later with the reveal of a clone, and not have to really, you know, beat with it that it got, you didn't need to have, big neon signs to explain that this was something they should get. And that's what I've been watching and fascinated by. And that's, watching the movies with Deb and seeing what she got or what she got excited about, or, if certain things paid off, and they all seem to, with these two movies, everything seemed to pay off. All of the setups, all of the things that you would think, okay, are these too inside baseball for the average reader to get or average viewer to get? And she got them all. So that's fascinating to me. But yeah, so she finished up, headed up on Friday, and so my movie watching partner's gone. So Lisa and I watch a lot of movies together. She watches all the crazy ones too. She watches all the Marvel stuff with me and Superman. But I do have a tendency to rewatch movies a lot. I consider them like comfort food. You know how you're not necessarily in a good mood, or you just doesn't you seem a little off, so you order a pizza, or you get yourself a hamburger from a certain place, that kind of thing, or a pot pie, or whatever is gonna just relax you, what makes you feel better. Comfort food. And for me, certain movies are comfort food. Ones that I would rewatch all the time. Silverado is one of those for me. I love Silverado. Dead Again. Some of the Major League movies, Replacements. Those are all good. And then when the superhero movies started coming out, there really wasn't any in the early days, because all of them seemed to have those moments, those awkward moments, like Tobey Maguire dancing in the suit, where you just feel like, oh God, I don't want to watch that part again. So if there's a part that I want to skip over, then I don't consider it a comfort food movie. Iron Man was comfort food for me. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, or Captain America, the original one. A lot of the origin movies, Doctor Strange, Shang-Chi, those would become the comfort food for me. The first Ant-Man movie. But the Batman quickly became the top one for me when it came out in 2022. And Superman has as well. But they're kind of 1-2. There was always that one movie, and now I have two solid movies. And the fact that they're both DC Studios is interesting to me. And the fact that they're not in the same universe is also interesting. That I feel that, I mean, they're the same, but they're different directors, different writers, different themes, but I like that. So, all right. Before we get into our plethora of topics, there are two trivia things I found out this week. One, I did verify. The other one I haven't had a chance to verify, but I like them both. Ed says, my comfort movies are A Perfect World, October Sky, With Honors, and The Batman. Nice. Good choices. Yeah. Silverado's always been one for me because it's just such a pure Saturday matinee Western movie. The cast is amazing. It's balanced. It gives you a villain for every hero because there's four main heroes. There's four main villains to go up against them. And it's just a really good film. It's one of those I'll sit down and watch, you know, if I come across the movie when it's playing and I won't turn it off, that counts. So, all right. So the first bit of trivia I found out, and this was just because I guess nobody had told me. If you guys are fans of Toto, you know, bless the rains down in Africa. Hey, Kat. Well, the lead singer of Toto, Joseph Williams, turns out he is the son of legendary composer John Williams. Now, I didn't know that. You'd think that would be more of a well-known fact. But yeah, guy that made the Superman score and the Raiders score and the Star Wars theme and the Harry Potter theme and just on and on and on and on and on. E.T. Gave birth to the guy who sings the Toto for Toto and is also the adult voice of Simba in The Lion King. I think that's pretty cool. Second bit of trivia I found out, and this I'm taking at face value because like I said, I haven't had a chance to verify it, but it kind of makes sense. There's a graphic going around that says that over his 3 movies, Christian Bale appeared as Batman for 151 minutes. 151 minutes of screen time between Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. 151 minutes. Now, Robert Pattinson has appeared as Batman in The Batman Only. That's the only film he's in so far. 129 minutes. So 129 minutes of that movie has Robert Pattinson in the suit. So it's literally 22 minutes difference. So if he shows up in the first half hour, 22 minutes, in the first 22 minutes that he appears in the movie, he will have tied all of Christian Bale's appearances. At 23, he passes. Again, I haven't had a chance to verify that. I'm not even sure how I could verify that. But if it's true, that's pretty amazing. That is a pretty amazing stat. That the Batman is so much of a Batman movie that we get Batman that much. So, all right, let's jump into our topics and let's start with the Batman, or in this case, the Batman Part 2. And as some of you know, Matt Reeves, of course, posted a couple test shots of the Batmobile driving in the snow, and that just blew up. Lots of people were reposting that, getting excited about it. People screaming, it's Mr. Freeze, it's Mr. Freeze. It's not Mr. Freeze. I don't think it's Mr. Freeze. It could be Mr. Freeze. How much do you think is writing and how much do you think is actor ego wanting their faces shown? I hate it when Spidey takes off his mask, and he does it a lot. I think is some of it, a good majority of it is actor ego. The classic example of that has to do with Judge Dredd. In the comics, Judge Dredd never takes off his helmet. Ever. Ever. When Sylvester Stallone played the character, he, of course, took his helmet off. There's a lot of scenes of Sylvester Stallone in the uniform with the helmet off. Now, later on, when they did the movie Dredd with Carl Urban, you never see Carl Urban's face. Carl Urban knows that Dredd always keeps his helmet on and did that. At no point did he want them to show his face. Not in a flashback, not in his helmet got knocked off, nothing like that. He wanted his helmet on. He was a Mandalorian in his commitment to keeping that helmet on. So, yeah, I think in a lot of ways it's ego. And there's some good ways around it. I think what Marvel did with Iron Man is probably the best use of that, because in that case, they wanted their star's face on the screen. But it wouldn't make sense for him to be flying around in the armor with the helmet off. So they came up with that idea of showing him inside the helmet, which they did in the comics quite a bit. And I think that is the happy medium. He's in the armor, he's got the helmet on, but we still get that FaceTime that a lot of fans want and a lot of the studios want, because they're paying Robert Downey Jr. all that money. They want to show him, But when you get something like the Batman, Robert Pattinson did something interesting when he finished with Twilight. When he finished with Twilight, he was offered a couple pretty big roles, and he passed them up. Instead, he signed up to do smaller movies, auteur movies, movies that were more likely to go to the Cannes Film Festival than ever, make it in Podunk, Ohio at the, opening there. And the reason he did that is because he wanted to control his acting destiny. He wanted his career to be about acting, not about blockbusters, not about box office. So that's why he did a lot of these interesting little movies like The Lighthouse, because he wanted to show himself as an actor. So when a big part like this comes along, it's not his intention or his main purpose to be on the screen as himself. He wants to be Batman. And I think that shows in this movie that you don't get a bunch of scenes with him with the mask off. He doesn't confront the villain with his mask off. Every time he sees the Riddler, he's got his mask on. Every time he sees Gordon, he's got his mask on. There's no point where he reveals his identity. And, the only time we ever see him out of it is at the funeral, at the hospital, or at Wayne Manor, which makes a lot of sense. Oh, I guess he does go to the Iceberg Club with the mask off at one point. Okay. Anyway, Ed says, why not just have a few more Peter Parker scenes in there for ego? He was even concerned when he thought Riddler knew who he was in the prison scene. Yeah. So, I don't know. I guess it really depends on who you're hiring. If you're hiring The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, then he's going to want his face. He's going to want you to know it's him. But if you hire somebody like Robert Pattinson, maybe Sebastian Stan, these people who are actors first, then you're going to get people who don't care if their screen time is with the mask on or not. And I think that's important, I mean, Sebastian Stan did that entire movie with all that prosthetic makeup on, and that, you know, Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell, you don't see him in Oz Cobb or Oswald Cobblepot. You just see the Penguin. It's pretty amazing. All right, so what we're talking about with Matt Reeves, he posted those pictures. Well, for 2 days this last week, he posted GIFs online showing the cast for the Batman 2. And it's a pretty interesting cast. A couple surprises, but I wouldn't, if somebody you thought was going to be in it wasn't announced, I wouldn't assume that means they're not going to be in it. So, like, what's Kat say? Sometimes when they show their faces, it's nice so you know it's not all AI or CG or whatever they call it. True. That way, like fight scenes and stuff, it's good to see their face. But even with Pattinson, if you see his jaw and his mouth and stuff, you still can pretty much tell it's him. So, and they did that in the film. So a lot of these guys are doing their own stunts, which is great. Or at least a majority of them. The majority of the stunts. Okay, so the first day, he went and showed who was coming back. He showed a picture. He welcomed back Robert Pattinson, but of course, not Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, Pattinson as Batman. He welcomed back Batman in the scene where he's walking up to look at the Penguin who's flipped upside down in his car. He then welcomed back Jeffrey Wright as James Gordon, Andy Serkis as Alfred Pennyworth, which are basically Batman's two best allies. And then from there, he welcomed back the opposing forces of Gotham City. You've got the government and Jamie Lawson returning as Bella Real, the newly elected mayor. And you have Colin Farrell returning as Oz Cobb, kind of the new boss of Gotham, mob boss of Gotham. So you've got those two different sides. And then he posted the one that I think surprised a lot of people, but didn't surprise me because I get how important this character is in the movie. And that is Officer Martinez, played by Gil Perez Abraham. Now, you may think, well, who the hell's Officer Martinez, or why is he such an important character? Well, Officer Martinez is the representation of the GCPD. Yes, James Gordon is part of the GCPD, but he's already allied to Batman. Martinez shows you what the general cops are feeling. The first time we see him is at the crime scene where Mitchell's killed, the Riddler's first kill. And Gordon brings Batman in, and Martinez steps in front of him to stop him because he's not supposed to be in there. He's not a cop. He's not part of this. And Gordon has to tell him to let him through. The next time we see him is when Mitch, the police chief, has been killed on the video, and Gordon and Batman are looking at the evidence. He's the guy that comes down and says they're coming. So at this point, I don't think he's necessarily accepting Batman, but he's accepting that Gordon accepts Batman, and he's behind Gordon. Then we see him at the funeral, where he's like, "Hey, Mr. Wayne," and that's because, again, that's to show what the people's reaction is to Bruce Wayne. Even the cops are amazed by this guy because he's the prince of the city, and he's a recluse and they don't know him. For him to show up is amazing. So then it goes on, and he's when Carmine Falcone is brought out, he's the guy that cuffs Falcone. When they go and get the Riddler, he's the guy that um, cuffs the Riddler. And then later on, when Batman goes back to the scene of the crime, well, first when they're looking at the scene of the crime, they're going through stuff. One of the other cops says, "Hey, you gonna, he's touching all the evidence." He's like, he's wearing gloves. Well, that's not Martinez. But at this point, Martinez is past that. He's accepting. And then when Batman has to go back to the Riddler's apartment and Martinez catches him there, he's like, "You're not supposed to be here." But he doesn't try to get rid of him. He lets it go. And then to the point that he even starts helping him and working with him. He's the guy that knows that that's a carpentry tool, the Tucker, those things. So Martinez is an important character. Plus, he's been embraced by a lot of the fan base. There's a guy that posts as Officer Martinez on Twitter. He's just become kind of a beloved character. Now, that's the extent of the people who were returning, but that's not to say that no one else is coming back. Those are just the people that play at least a significant role, that have a good amount of screen time. What you don't get are like Con O'Neill as Chief Mackenzie Bach. Yeah, Bach. My feeling is he'll be back. He showed up in the Penguin. I don't think they're going to get rid of him anytime soon. Hell, he may be commissioner at this point. And then, of course, there's been a lot of talk about Barry Keoghan and Paul Dano returning. I don't think they would be listed in this either way. Because if they return, it'll be a cameo. One second. Brief hiccups. So I don't see them be, like the two scenes that Keoghan did in the first movie, one of them got deleted and the other one was very small. I think that's how we would get those characters again, as side notes and stuff like that. No, Pete, we're still doing we haven't got to the Punisher yet. We started with the Batman. So we will get to that. So it says another reason I love the Batman so much is because of the casting. Every part was perfectly cast. I agree. Absolutely. So don't count out people that were in the first movie not coming back, because there's probably a good chance they still are. They're just not coming back in large roles, So now the second day was the day that they announced the new cast members. And that was interesting as well, because he confirmed Scarlett Johansson, he confirmed Sebastian Stan, and he confirmed Charles Dance. All three of them had been reported as being in the movie. The reports say Sebastian Stan is going to play Harvey Dent, that Charles Dance is going to play Christopher Dent, Harvey's father. There's been some different reporting. For a while there, everybody thought Scarlett was going to be, I don't remember the character's name, but Mask of the Phantasm would be the Phantasm. Others think that she's going to be Gilda Dent because we have Harvey. There's actually a report right now that all of that is wrong and that Dent is playing a different character and somebody else is playing Dent. So what was different when the first time these characters were announced, or the casting was announced, Matt Reeves did that. He gave who they were playing. He said that Paul Dano was playing Edward Nashton, that Colin Farrell was playing Oz Cobblepot, or Oswald Cobblepot. I don't know what name he's going by anymore. I still see things written down as Oz Cobb or Oswald Cobb, Oswald Cobblepot. Anyway. So, yeah, I don't think we can take for granted who everybody's playing. Do I think that Sebastian Stan's playing Harvey Dent. I think that's the most likely that Charles Dance is playing his dad. Scarlett Johansson, I'm not 100% sure because Reeves is not going to do an exact adaptation. So, are we going to get the Long Halloween and she's the holiday killer? I don't think so. I think we'll get some kind of twist. Maybe the twist is to combine that with Hush. Maybe her coming back, maybe she's Hush now. Maybe we're going to get a gender bent Hush that she's, I know there's some women with the name Tommy. So maybe she's going to be the equivalent of Tommy Elliott and comes back as Hush. But, when we first see the character, it seems like it's a guy. I don't know. I just don't think we can assume 100% that she's playing Gilda and that we're getting the Long Halloween. I think it's going to be, well, there's a chance it'll be something different. But then we got two more names. And these names hadn't been mentioned or talked about by anybody. These names just came out of the blue. One is German actor Sebastian Koch, and the movie you probably know him from is Another Day to Die Hard. That's probably his biggest film role, but he's a big German actor. The second actor is Brian Tyree Henry from Atlanta, from The Eternals. And people seem to think he might be Harvey Bullock, to the point where somebody posted that and Matt Reeves actually liked that post. So now everybody's like, oh, he's going to be Harvey Bullock. Who knows at this point? We need to wait and see if more casting is announced, specifically who these characters are going to play, what other characters, because there's no way that's all the people that are going to be in it. There's a lot of actors that weren't initially announced for the first movie that were then added, No one knew Con O'Neill was going to be in the Batman until he showed up. The guy that played Gil Colson, those actors. So I would hold off on assuming what we're going to get with the movie. I think we've still got some surprises coming up. So, and hopefully Matt Reeves is going to give us a little more, a little more teasers, a little more something to go on. But we're still a year away. Plus, it'll be October of next year before the movie comes out. So he can tease it for a while. Let's see. Pete says, I have to rewatch the Batman news, though. I like that movie. I just watched the Punisher special a couple of hours ago. All right. We are definitely going to get to that, but I want to go through the other news. I'm going to do the Punisher near the end. All right. So what else we got? We have James Gunn announced that there will be another Green Lantern teaser dropping tomorrow, which is cool. No, I don't think Catwoman will be back. I think that's the one character that I think will be saved for another movie. So we'll get another teaser tomorrow, Green Lantern. He teased a little bit of it. So he did a teaser of the teaser that's of the teaser, whatever it is. But there's an article with Chris Mundy that came out talking about the Lantern series. And it gave one bit of information that I think changes everything we're looking at in these teasers. He said that we're going to be getting two different timelines in the Lanterns, 2016 and today. And that what we're seeing in 2016, Hal and him training John Stewart and them going to that small town because of a murder, that's all in 2016. What's happening now parallels that, is tied to it, but by then, John Stewart's a much more trained uh, Lantern. He's got 10 years experience. So it should be interesting to see how all that pans out. Is Hal still around in 2026? I mean, that shows a lot more depth in what we're getting. And they like to do that in stuff like the True Detective series, and where they have the two parallel timelines. So we're going to get that, which I think is going to be cool. Also, in the tease that we got, there's definitely more green. And Mundy said there's going to be more green. That, we don't have to worry that there's going to be a lack of green in the film. Also, that it's kind of a mixed bag. There are some episodes that take place mainly on Earth and aren't that special effects heavy. Then there are some episodes that are more cosmic or that take place off of Earth, and there are some that are extremely special effects heavy, and that they will use, they use the ring constructs both in a practical manner and for humorous moments too. So I don't think the thing that people were worried about, that, oh my God, it's a lantern thing, but there's no green and we're never going to see the rings used. They wouldn't do that. Will it be as much as you hoped and as you want? That I don't know. But it won't be like, it's not the surf vampire thing or the surf Dracula thing, where we have 13 episodes and he doesn't surf until the 13th episode. It'll be more like the 60s version where we get a little surfing every episode. All right. So other news we got has to do with Visionquest, which really seems like a forgotten series. I mean, it sounds great to me. It's Tony Matalis, who worked on 12 Monkeys, the final season of 12 Monkeys. He worked on the final season of Picard. The guy does great science fiction, and he is coming in to answer the question of what happened to the White Vision. What happened to the rebuilt body of the Vision, which now has all of the memories of the first Vision. Even though he didn't live those, they're not his memories, he has them. This also will include the return of Ultron, and both Paul Bettany and James Spader will appear both as the android forms or the robotic forms and in their human forms. So we will see James Spader on the screen. We will see Paul Bettany on the screen. This is coming out in October 14th to be specific. So, it's good. We're going to get a lot of good stuff. We're going to get, in August, we're getting Lanterns. That'll carry us into September. Then in October, we're going to get the Visionquest. We're going to have Supergirl. We're going to have Clayface. We're going to have Spider-Man. Brand New Day. We're going to have Doomquest or Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday. We got a lot of great stuff coming up, and there's probably one or two other sneaking in there too. So we're going to have a hell of a year going forward. All right. We had another casting for Man of Tomorrow, and it seems like they're just adding and adding and adding to the cast. And this one is Sinqua Walls. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He is known for movies like Shark Night, Carry On, The Blackening, the 1517 to Paris. So what could he be playing here? Now, anytime an African-American character or a character of color is brought up, everybody goes, oh my God, he's going to be Martian Manhunter. So now, of course, there's a rumor that Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman are going to be in this, and we're going to get a pseudo Justice League at some point. Not the Justice Gang, but the actual Justice League, because we'll also have Aaron Pierre and we'll have Hawk Girl. So we'll have Jon Stewart and Hawk Girl. I don't know. That sounds kind of far-fetched to me. Krypton says Lantern's trailer is being dropped tomorrow. They show footage Yeah, that we were just talking about that you actually get some constructs and John Stewart in action. So I can't wait to see that tomorrow. I'll probably go on TikTok after and talk about it. So if you guys aren't following me over on TikTok, that's Dan Wick 70, I believe, or Dan Wickline, one of the two. But I do quite a bit of posting over there during the week. Um, so Sinqua Walls, yeah, could he be Martian Manhunter? Could that be what's happening? Sure. Why not? Could be. I wouldn't bank on it. I wouldn't put any money on it. I keep thinking that because we're getting Brainiac, we're going to get Star Labs. And with, that's why I think, maybe either Andre Royo or Matthew Lillard is probably playing Emil Hamilton. And that means this guy, Sinqua Walls, if he wanted to, with Star Labs, you also get the head of security for Star Labs, Guardian, the guy in the blue and the yellow suit. Looks like a Captain America knockoff. Another Jack Kirby creation, I believe. He could be, I think he's a Jack Kirby creation. It could be that when we go to Star Labs, we see that, Hamilton's there and the Guardian's there. So these roles are getting introduced, but not necessarily overflowing it. This is supposed to be a movie about Clark and Lex, or Superman and Lex. So I think that's where the focus will be. And you'll get characters that are in it, but we didn't spend a lot of time with the engineer. We didn't spend a lot of time with Ultraman or Guy Gardner. We didn't get their backstories or any of that. So I'm not worried about this becoming overflown, but I also don't think they're going to introduce some of the biggest heroes in the DCU like Wonder Woman. They might just cameo, but I don't think they're going to spend any serious time with it. So, hey, Thomas, good to see you. So, yeah, Sinqua Walls, again, he could be Martian Manhunter, but Sterling K. What is that actor's name? Anyway, he wants to be Sterling Brown, K. Brown. He wants to be Martian Manhunter. So, hey Jay, how you doing? All right, so let's get to the final topic, the one that Pete is here for, the Punisher. The Punisher, one last kill. I'm a little mixed on it. I think it's a really well-written Punisher story. Everywhere I go online, people talking about it, all talk about how short it is. And I don't have a problem with that because it is what it is. They said it was going to be a 1 hour special or 45-minute special, and that's what they gave us. They did a special edition just like they did with Werewolf by Night and they did with the Guardians Christmas special. So I didn't go in thinking it was going to be this huge story. This is, when they do these, it's a day in the life or a moment of time for a character. This is, just in case, if some of you haven't seen it, there's going to be a little bit of spoilers here. So, this is Frank having finished his revenge quest, basically thinking he's done and realizing he doesn't have a reason to live. He doesn't have a reason to keep going on. And the one last kill they're talking about is himself. Because he knows that he's not a hero, he's a killer. And the world is, not a better place for having killers in it. So That's what we're dealing with in the beginning, is him basically breaking down. His PTSD is kicking in. He's seeing ghosts. He's seeing his daughter, his wife. He's seeing Karen, the fellow Marines he served with. It's interesting that two of the Marines that we hadn't seen before, there's the one guy from the support group, but the other two are actual Marines, are real actual Marines who are there as themselves. I thought that was a nice touch. So that's where Frank is coming from at that point, and he's just deciding to end it, but doesn't. You know, a vision of his daughter keeps him from doing it. And when he goes back, that's when we run into Ma Nucci. Ma Nucci, of course, famous from the Welcome Back, Frank storyline, here played by Judith Light, who used to be the mother, the mother on Who's the Boss, who's been in a bunch of stuff. And she wants revenge because we find out that Frank went after the Nucci family because the Nucci family were involved with the death of his family. That he killed the father and the three sons, but he didn't kill Ma Nucci. And she wants revenge. And what she did was she found the Punisher, found out where he lived, and at the exact moment that Punisher killed her youngest son, she is sending out a text to all the mobsters, all the street thugs and whatever in the town or in the area where the Punisher is. And suddenly we end up with the raid. We get a John Wick movie. Mind you, the John Wick comparison also comes from the fact that there's a guy who does a very nasty deed to a dog in the beginning, takes it from a vet and kills the dog in a horrible way. And as soon as you see that, everybody goes, that guy has to die in a horrible way. Where's Frank? Because that's where we are in life. You kill a human, we want to know why. Why did you do it? Were they a good person or were they a bad person? Did you have a reason for doing it? Are you going to kill other people? We take a little time. You kill a dog, you get the chair. You're done. You don't have an appeal. You don't have a plea. You killed a dog. That's it. And that's where we are in society nowadays. I mean, that's the basis for the entire John Wick series, and that's the setup for this. But that doesn't get paid off right away. What we get is this insane battle in this building. And what it is this is why I'm a little iffy, or why I've the little problem I have with the Punisher special, is that this is basically showing Frank that he could do more than just get revenge. He could actually help people. And that's what he does in this. Andre Royo, who's going to be a Man of Tomorrow, is in this as a coffee shop owner with a wife and a kid. And the little girl reminds Frank of his own daughter. That brings him in to help them. Even though when he has a chance to kill Ma Nucci, he chooses to help them instead. And that shows Frank growing as a character. But I feel like we've kind of done this before. In the Punisher Netflix series, it feels like we've kind of taken that trip, especially in season 2, when he helps that girl, even when she fights against him for it. I just feel like we've already made that transition, and now we're doing it again. So that's my one complaint, is it feels like we're going over the same ground again. Yeah, Pete, that's the same. The blonde woman from Who's the Boss that Tony Danza kept hitting on. She's the mob boss mother. Yeah. So yeah, That's my only complaint about it. Now, there is some other stuff. There's some sound quality issues that it's hard to hear sometimes, especially when Frank is talking. Also, there's a visual effect when Frank goes backwards off a building into an air conditioning unit or an HVAC unit. But Disney has acknowledged those and also and planned to fix those. So, if you haven't watched it yet, maybe wait a week or so, give them a chance to fix it, or wait, and then watch it. And they're not horrible. The special effects moment is like, ooh, but otherwise, it's really good. The firefight is good. Frank has to deal with empty, guns getting empty, keeping track, switching weapons, a lot of stuff, just getting beat to crap. So from that point of view, it is on the John Wick level of fighting. Overall, I thought it was really good. I find it interesting that John Bernthal co-wrote that. He also co-wrote the Bear special that came out the week before Gary. So he's writing more now. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, because these aren't the most complicated stories. But it could be that he just understands the characters he's playing better than anybody else. So let's see. Krypton says, I want to see Frank and Moon Knight. Yeah, that's something I think a lot of people want to see, hopefully we'll get Moon Knight back and we'll start kind of, my hope, and it kind of what it seems like they're doing, is they're opening up the street level characters through Daredevil, and they're starting to bring these characters back. And I'm hoping that they'll start including some of the newer ones like Moon Knight. And, Hawkeye would be another one, especially Kate Bishop, Hawkeye. I think that would be a good way to go. All right, Ed says, to me, the Punisher special felt like a way of reintroducing the version of Punisher to more people who don't. Okay, from that point of view, I could see that. So people don't need to go back and watch 20 some odd episodes of the Punisher and his appearances in Daredevil and stuff. They could just watch this and kind of get a feel for it. So yeah, from that point of view, I agree. It was kind of like an origin story with a twist is what I'm getting at. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It is a perfect vehicle for somebody who's gonna go to see Spider-Man and hasn't watched the Netflix series. So yeah. Plus, it does kind of take him to where he's actually on the street trying to help in his own way. So, season 3 of Daredevil Born Again. I hope they don't overshadow Matt prison story with Defenders. I think they'll parallel, but I think Matt will get plenty of time. I think it'll be like 55, 60% Matt, 40%, 45% Defenders, because I think whatever the Defenders are doing is going to be also tied towards what Matt's doing. So, plus I don't think Matt will be in the prison the entire season. Probably a chunk of it, like a good chunk, like maybe 6 episodes of 8, but he will get out at some point, I think. So, all right, guys. So that's my thoughts on the Punisher. I thought Judith Light was good as Monducci. The fact that she lives at the end gives us another character for Frank to have to deal with in the future. That Frank is getting more heroic, at least from a point of view of him wanting to help. He has a purpose in life again. And we'll see where that takes him in Spider-Man. I thought it was a well-directed, well-acted story. Like I said, I don't agree with all the people saying it needed to be another 30 minutes. It needed to have this added and that added and stuff. I'm just getting so tired of people complaining because the movies and stuff aren't what they wanted them to be, instead of looking at them for what was presented. I think a lot of negativity online towards these things is because people have their expectations and those expectations aren't met because they're unrealistic expectations. It would be like going into the second Batman movie and saying, the only way I'm going to like this movie is if we get Robin. Well, the odds are you're not getting Robin. You're not going to get Robin. You're not going to get a David Corenswet cameo. So, if you go in with realistic expectations or go in open to what the writer and the director want to do, there's a better chance you're going to like the movie. Do you think we'll get Nucci in the movie, or do you think I don't think that. No, I don't think she'll show up in the movie. I think this will be something completely separate. That whoever Sadie Sink is playing, if it is somebody like Jean Grey, maybe she's manipulating Frank. Somehow Frank gets involved, trying to help her, or whoever she's playing. I think this will be standalone. I don't think Judith Light will be in Spider-Man. Do I think that character will pop back up sometime? Probably, because I think the positive, overall, the reaction to the Punisher special has been positive. And I think that, and some of these other things that have been going on will guide Marvel to going back to some of the Netflix characters and dealing with them in the way that Netflix did by doing ongoing series, It's one of the, it's one of the things Chris Mundy said about Lanterns is that this is not a finite series. It's meant to be an ongoing multiple season series. So if you approach shows like that, then you're going to get stuff like the Daredevil show. If you approach it like it's a one and done, then you get stuff like WandaVision, Agatha All Along. So even though we're getting Visionquest as kind of the third of that trilogy, they're all self-contained. They need to come into it with the idea that it's going to be an ongoing series, not a movie broken down over 6 or 8 parts. And if they do that, I think it'll be a much better product for the fans to get behind. So, all right, guys, we're pretty close to wrapping it up. Any last questions? Anything you guys want to know about? Ed says, with the success of Werewolf by Night special, I'm a bit disappointed that Marvel isn't exploring more of the horror monster stories. Maybe someday. I think they have every intentions of doing that. And the rumor I'm hearing is they're going to do that. But the Blade story was supposed to be next. And they've had such a hard time getting that concept right that it's stalling out what they're going to do. But now they're talking about going right into the Midnight Suns, and that should connect the horror stuff. So don't be surprised if that starts moving forward, especially after the Avengers stuff. I think Marvel's going to have a serious rethink on how they do their future. I think these big interconnected all universes thing is a little too cumbersome. They need to kind of break it down into, here's the cosmic characters, here's the horror characters, here are the street level characters, and here are the Avenger level characters. And those are what's going to connect. So all the street level stuff will come together, all the cosmic stuff will be together, all the horror stuff, the Avenger stuff. And could they cross over a little bit? Yes. But what's happening, the entire world being, blown up isn't going to affect Daredevil because it's going to take place at a different time. That's what I think they're going to have to do to make this continue work, because they've gotten too big for everything to connect. Too cumbersome. And people don't necessarily want to watch everything from Marvel, just like they don't want to watch everything from DC. The Clayface movie, when that comes out, a lot of people are going to want to see that, and it ties into the main DCU with Superman and them. But it's a body horror. It is a true horror film. So there's a chance that people won't see it because of that. So, also, Ed, did you see the notification that Reacher season 5 has already been greenlit? So season 4 hasn't even come out yet. Season 5 is already greenlit. So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. I did see the Good Omens 3. We'll talk about that next week. I thought that was a really well done ending. I'm got to try to watch Citadel and The Night Agent. And of course, we got Spider Noir coming out. We've got Mandalorian and Grogu. There's another show coming out. Oh, the Jack Ryan movie. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. So I will see you all next week. I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit the thumbs up button, the like and subscribe, those things. And have a great week. Y'all take care, and we will see you soon.